Welcome back to Rubbin Minds. Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie in her essay said, "We have a generation of young people on social media so terrified of having the wrong opinions that they have robbed themselves of the opportunity to think and to learn and to grow. The assumption of good faith is dead." She goes on to further say, "What matters is not goodness, but the appearance of goodness. We are no longer human beings. We are now angels, jostling to out-angel one another. God help us. It is obscene." Now, this is a great way to just frame our conversation this afternoon on cancel culture. Are people so afraid to make mistakes, to say the wrong things, to really air what they feel out of fear of being cancelled? Are people afraid to show what their real choice is, whether it's in an actor or a political leader or an ideology, out of fear of being totally cancelled? Is cancel culture as real as we make it to seem, or is it being over-exaggerated? Can people actually cancel individuals? To discuss cancel culture and if it's really taking over our humanity, I have with me a media editor and actor, Osas Okonyo. Welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you. I'm happy to be here.
Thank you for honoring our invitation. I'm also joined by Michael Shonariwo, a media personality. Good to have you.
Thank you for having me.
And virtually, we're being joined by an essayist and culture critic, Edwin Okolo. Edwin, welcome to Rubbin Minds.
Thank you very much.
So let's get right into cancel culture. I'll start with you, Osas, and that's because you work in the media space. Is cancel culture taking over our humanity? Is cancel culture as big as Chimamanda has made it seem to say, God help us, it's obscene. Like, people can't be themselves anymore because we're all afraid. We're all tippy-toeing on the social media space.
Yeah, I mean, so I wouldn't say it's so much of cancel culture as it is of us just wanting to look good online and look great. I have a good appearance, so to speak, because when it comes to cancel culture, especially in this part of the world, there's not a lot really going on. I think that we speak more of cancel culture than people are actually cancelled, to be honest, especially because as Nigerians, we are more of communists than anything. You know, nobody wants to actually fully cancel anybody because it's like you're taking their source of livelihood, or, you know, you don't want people to fall off wherever it is that they are. So at the end of the day, cancel culture is not as big of a problem as we try to make it seem. Although there are, you know, cases where people are bullied online for but cancel culture in that, you know, someone says something and then after that, that's the end of their, not so much really.
Okay, I'll move to you, Michael. When I think about cancel culture, at least in recent times, say last year, Naira Marley easily comes to mind because we saw clips of his late artist being bullied, and there was this whole thing of, oh, it's Naira Marley's fault, that's the cause of his death, and people came out in their numbers to unfollow. Like, you could actually see social media numbers dropping. You could actually see people taking a stand, people saying like they're all out against Malians, cancelling Malians, and perhaps even existing Malians not necessarily wanting to associate so strongly. I mean, I remember Zinoleski trying to sort of get his way, out of the fray. Like, oh, if you guys are going to cancel Naira Marley, please don't cancel me. I still have music to make, you know. Do you see Naira Marley being cancelled, or was it just a temporary, pointing of hands, and Nigerians have sort of gotten back to, look, let's give him some slack, you know, this has been inconclusive from the autopsy?
Well, I think at times Nigerians, we like to follow trends. Whatever trend that might be, whether positive or negative, we at times like to follow trends. And something like Naira Marley's case now, I feel it was the court of public opinion. Because, again, from the facts that were given, We weren't given all the full details, but the fact that we're given was that Naira Marley and his associates were involved. So with something like that that led to somebody's death now, you obviously are not going to support that person. But at the same time, we didn't have all the full facts and figures now to allow us to really understand what was going on. But moving forward now, you have the thing of short-term memory some people may have, whereby now it goes back to regular programming, whereby his loyal fans will continue being his loyal fans. People that were probably in between, they are making the decision whether they want to continue listening to his music or they're going to continue standing against him. So I think it's a case now that in the end, he built a strong platform that he'll have his core audience, but for the majority of people now, they've probably let him go.
Okay, I'll move to you, Edwin. I would like you to also weigh in on that. And I want you to also look at this question from what Usa said about bullying. Like, is there a line between people being bullied or people being cancelled? Now, in the case of Mohbad and his death, we saw people coming out to take a stand against Naira Marley. Now, if you juxtapose that with sort of the online bullying that Toyin Abraham has been receiving for her choice of political candidate, in this case, President Bola Ahmed Tinubu in the elections, is that cancellation or is that more of bullying?
So it's a very complex situation. For the example of Mohbad and Naira Marley, somebody died and people felt compelled to respond to that death, especially because they felt like the person who died was oppressed, and so most of the response was in response to that. In the case of Toyin Abraham, it's a lot different because she exercised her public right to support a certain candidate, and people have responded.
Edwin, we'll come back to you. It appears we lost you. I'll move to you, Osas. In your own experience in the media, when this cancellation or bullying takes place, how long does it last for? Have you seen cases of people being totally cancelled, that they can't sort of make a comeback in their careers, or is it something that's just temporal?
So I would say that for the most part, the only very strong cancelling that I've seen so far would be the case of Naira Marley, where it's like, you know, we don't want to hear anything from you, we don't want to play your music, we don't want you to release any new. But generally, Nigerians are we have very, you know, short-term, you know, it's like once you do another nice thing, and I think that he even tried that because, I mean, it's Nigerians, you know, giveaway and, you know, and everyone is back to status quo. But generally, Nigerians move on very fast. You know, once the new trend comes on, everyone has moved on from whatever it is and just moved on to the next thing. You know, that's literally how, I think it's the time that we're in right now. It's the media, it's fast-paced, everything is happening at the same time. So nobody really has time to focus on one person and whatever it is that they're doing, except in very serious cases like the one that we have with Naira Marley, where it actually involved someone's unfortunate death, right? So yeah.
Michael, you mentioned about people wanting to jump on trends and do things based on what is reigning or what the bandwagon is doing. Is it more about that, you know, being with the cool kid, doing what is in, or is it more about fear? Like, if I really express how I feel, I'm going to be bullied, I'm going to be cancelled, I'm not going to be seen as being cool or it. So where is it stemming from? Is it more of a need to be accepted or more of fear that I can't really be myself and say my mind?
Well, what I've noticed in Nigeria is that the people that are not afraid to go against the trends or not afraid of public opinions are the people that usually thrive the most. So, for example, a lot of the social influencers we have today now, you see them creating a lot of new, unique content that's not usually the popular thing in Nigeria, but they're creating a unique content that makes them stand out. And because of that, they're able to have a lot of success from that. if they're consistent at it. So you have a lot of people who, yes, the majority of Nigerians, they like to follow trends or the popular opinions. But the people that stand out now are the people that go against the popular opinion and come up with their own collective reasoning. For example, now we have a podcast now called Menizens Podcast. That was a podcast for men to express themselves. And at first, when we started the podcast, we got a lot of backlash at first because it was men speaking on mics, talking about topics about women. However, as we were consistent at it now, people started hearing the unique takes of it, and that's what gave it a lot of success. So I feel like if you're somebody that's an influencer, media personality in Nigeria, if you're able to at least be consistent in your craft and go against the trends, then you'll have a lot of success doing so.
Okay. Edwin, are you still there? Okay, we'll continue, Osas, and this time I want to look at the actual effect it has. So beyond the reduction of social media numbers, do you feel that these people are influencing a generation not to say their mind? Do you feel that, for example, Toyin Abraham in this case saying, look, I supported this president, I continue to stand on the mandate, and the kind of backlash she's receiving is going to affect other people in the future rather, not to share so boldly or share so openly who they truly support, or maybe even come up and say they support a certain person just so that they are received properly online or received warmly?
I mean, I would say that there's definitely, going to be a bit of that hesitation going forward, seeing how this one has been, handled. But in Toyin's case, I think it's very tricky, in that she wasn't the only one who, supported this candidate. She wasn't the only one who came out to say, oh, this person is who I'm going with and all of that. But there seems to be a lot. And I think that it just also speaks to what he said about, people following trends. It's like everyone decided that we're going to focus on this person. And then a lot of people also just, went ahead. So, yeah, there would be that hesitation, going forward. Like, do I want to, do this? But then again, on the flip side of it, on the other side of it, there's also people who would just be like, if I just do the right thing, right? I mean, no one is going to necessarily come for you. Now, the tricky part of that one is what exactly is the right thing, because we cannot exactly say she did anything wrong, right? She just exercised her rights. So it's just, at the end of the day, it's more of people just deciding what is more important to them. I'm going to say whatever it is I'm going to say, and whatever is going to come after it is fine. People can argue that if you come online and say something, I can also come online and say, whatever it is that I want to say, as long as I'm not directly poking you or, so at the end of the day, it's free game.
Free game.
Yeah.
Now, Michael, it's interesting you mentioned your podcast, because I start thinking about people who have been cancelled, and the reaction by people is don't purchase their music, don't watch their movies, don't buy their merchandise. And when you started your podcast, did you find people cancelling you? Did you see reduction of numbers? Did you see people boycotting your podcast completely, or particular guests that might have expressed opinions that were not mainstream and felt that they should be cancelled?
If anything, it gave us a lot of success because it was something that wasn't seen in the public norm in Nigeria. So before the podcast, we do a lot of content, TikToks, as you like to say. And a lot of the TikToks stem from talking about public opinions of what men go through in society, speaking about women, but not in a negative light, in terms of speaking of things from our perspective. So those videos, of course, trended. They did millions of views, which now led to the podcast. So from the podcast, when those segments would go out, they would trend. And of course, you'd have the backlash at first from some women, but you had a lot of women who supported us. And then you had even more men who supported us, because again, our takes were not attacking people. It was just speaking about topics that maybe you might hear in your head, or you might speak amongst a small group of people. But because you're now saying it publicly, publicly, you're saying things people want to say but might be too scared to say, as we've discussed. So, of course, with that, it's led to a lot of success that now we've had a lot of celebrities on our podcast, if anything. They want to come because they see the conversations are very organic and authentic. So that's what's made us stand out. And it's like they said, if you're able to do something against the normal trend in Nigeria and do it right, you're able to see a lot of success from it.
Now, Stas, where do we draw the line between free speech, between saying things that are controversial to trend, between canceling people, coming at them, and totally because when you see some of this either canceling or bullying, whatever you want to call it, it goes beyond the personality. It goes to the person's family, the person's art, the person's work, the person's entirety. And it's almost like we're going to decimate this person and whatever this person stands for. Not always, looking at the cost it has on other people that are affected. So where do we draw that line between what is free and fair in terms of speech and the things that are being said to cancel someone or to trend?
I mean, there's a popular wave now where it's almost cool to kind of like be vile. It's almost like people get points for being like, we want to see who's the meanest, who can say the meanest things, or who can, and people kind of like derive some sort of enjoyment, pleasure, or just some online clout from it. Now, there's also the part where people know that certain things will trigger this backlash. And so they actually go ahead to do it because at the end of the day, it's numbers for them. So that it's two sides to one coin. It's like there's one hand where people just jump on these things. If you say something that we don't want to hear, then we also come at you in droves and, but there's also the part where people are going to be like, you know what, I know that this is going to trigger you, so I'm going to do it anyway. And then the more that you talk, the more numbers I have. And at the end of the day, you're lining my pockets, So, but there's also that part where we all just want to caution each other and just be like, at the end of the day now, it all boils down to morality and how you are as a person. Do you really want to be that person who's always going after people?
Who's antagonizing, who's trending at the expense of other people?
Or, do you want to just be your own person and live and let live?
We have Edwin back now, so I'd like you to finish up your thoughts. You were looking at Tony Abraham, Mohbad, Naira Marley. Would like you to continue that.
Yeah, okay, thank you very much. So as I was saying, Tony Abraham is a very different subject matter because she is a public personality, number one. Number two, she wields considerable influence. And number three, she has a fan base who follow her because they believe that they share the same values with her. And I think a lot of the backlash that she has been getting over the last couple of months is because they believe that she has betrayed the values that they thought they shared with her. And they're trying to let her know. Of course, people on the internet can be very aggressive because they feel that there is no repercussions. Everything is online and they can log off after and not really face the consequences of their actions. But I think that there needs to be some level of restraint and caution when people try to correct public personalities for making personal choices.
Thank you, Edwin. Now, I'll move to you, Michael. Should there be repercussions? I mean, we're on TV now. There is a code. There are certain things I can't say. There are certain things you can't say. No matter how much we want to trend or want to follow the bandwagon, should we have a code for engagement on social media that mitigates these kind of issues with cancel culture? And for the people who are found wanting, should they be punished? Should maybe the owners of platforms like X, formerly Twitter, find ways to totally ban them? I mean, we have a case of the former president, Donald Trump, that can't have an account on X, for example. Should we begin to see such measures?
It's very tricky when you ask that question because you still want to give people free speech to express themselves. But if it becomes a case that is starting to harm others in terms of the literal sense, whereby people are spewing out hate messages or and people are acting on those hate messages, attacking people or so, that's when you need to take action with it. Like, for example, Donald Trump's case, it became a case that citizens were starting to take action because of the things he said. So that on its own is a right for you to close it. But then if it's something that somebody is just saying something controversial and all, you have to give people the freedom of speech at the same time. So I feel that the court of public opinion does actually matter, because if it's a case that's so extreme, the people will come together and speak about it so much that actions need to take place. So for example, with Donald Trump, people came together that an action took place. With Naira Marley, people came together that an action took place. But if it's something not that major, then allow people to express themselves. But you yourself now have to have a clear understanding of what you're taking in with social media. That's one thing that people don't like to do, take accountability in terms of the things you're watching, the things you're reading. How much of it are you taking it in every day?
Osas, as a media editor, how important is it to you to portray some of the maybe less popular opinions out there, even when it doesn't come with the commensurate numbers? Where do you have that conscience on what to push out, what to shine the light on, knowing the impact it might have on others and the people who are in question, but also managing the business sense?
Yeah. So, I mean, thankfully, where I started my career majorly, in the media is one very positive, space. It's one of the major policies where there's no promotion of hate, wherever anything that is coming from this platform, is it has to be positive. And even if it's a negative thing, there's always a positive spin on it. And so that has kind of like also seeped into my, personal boundaries as regards the kind of things that you want to platform, or because at the end of the day, a lot of these things rest on us. I feel like the media platforms have to be responsible, yes, we want the money, yes, you want the numbers, but there are other ways to get the money and get the numbers without actually decimating other people, So, and at the end of the day, there's also the part where, like you said, people have to, take accountability. If you're coming online, you already have to accept that not everybody's going to agree with what I'm going to say. Not everybody's going to agree with whatever opinions that I have, just the same way I have the right to air my opinion. Someone else has the right to say, I don't think that, this one is something to take, at the end of the day. So we all have that responsibility where it's like, if you're going to be doing anything at all and you're going to be airing it, you have to be conscious and know that, it could go either way, and, be ready for whatever it is. But also, as media platforms, you have to have that responsibility to make sure that you're not contributing, because the media has a lot of...
Yeah, it's called the fourth estate. They're gatekeepers.
Exactly.
Yes.
They have a lot of hand in a lot of these things. So if we're not promoting hate, if you're not promoting bile, if you're leading, we can set the tone.
And you can also kill certain stories. You can actually, put out some fires.
Yeah, so,
I'd like to get Edwin's thoughts on this. Do you feel in a case where self-censorship, like Osas has said, fails, that maybe the government needs to step in to start censoring what is happening on the social space, the same way, like, we can't just do anything we want on television, on radio, because there are fines to be paid when you go against the code? Is that where we should be looking at if we want to really tackle hate speech, cancel culture, online bullying?
The word social media has media in it, and one of the jobs of the media is to platform different opinions. I do think that government interference is a net negative for social media, because the government their primary focus is preserving the status quo, and often it takes the citizens to push against certain things for change to happen. Censorship will not only affect the trolls, it will affect the oppressed, the marginalized, people who do not have a voice anywhere else. Social media has been very influential in platforming a number of prominent Nigerian causes, including sexual violence, rape, police brutality. People had tried traditional media to get those stories out, but those stories were censored because of the insane amount of censorship that traditional media endures. Having the government interfere in social media will bring that kind of censorship here and will silence a lot of marginalized people who have found a voice, who have found agency, who have found power through social media. So I would say, and just to mention, there is already regulation on social media, but the social media platforms push against that regulation because they understand the power that they have and the position that they occupy in public discourse.
Listening to you, Edwin, it just reminded me of the time when X, or formerly Twitter, was down for months, and we also saw the repercussions that had. Some people make their money from being influencers or having engagement, and now they actually pay creators in Nigeria. So, it also begs the question of what people are doing now that there's even more opportunities to monetize. And I think what Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie said, where there's a lot of posturing, whether it's clout chasing, whether it's trying to out-angel the other. One just hopes that with that free platform that people are allowed to be themselves, and people can actually express their voices. Michael, do you share the same thoughts with Edwin when it comes to censorship and government involvement? In a few seconds.
Recently, I've seen the government has tried to get involved in some things. For example, with content creators, I saw recently they wanted to jump in on that. But I also feel that the government should take its time in actually understanding the internet in terms of content creation, social media, the business behind it. Because like you said, a lot of people now have found new streams of revenue from it. I'm one of those people that used to have a professional background before, but switched to content creation that pays me a lot more. And because you have access to the whole world, it also brings a good light if you're doing the content right to your country. So for example, now you see how Nigeria, outside of Afrobeats music, the content that we create in Nigeria is spreading around the world. That's bringing a lot more tourism in the country because we are the ones that are showcasing the country in a unique light. So I feel that, of course, like they said, there should be some kind of control from the government, but I feel that we need to educate ourselves first on the business of it and also how people are conducting themselves on it before we start to make final decisions. Thank
you very much, Michael Shonariwo. Thank you, Osaso Konya.
Thank you for having
me. Thank you very much, Edwin Okolo, for joining us on Rubbin Minds. Don't just stand there teasing me. Now